Executive Vice President at Marist College, along with Justin Butwell, Director of Physical Plant, and John Andrews.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry for the delay of the meeting. We're having little technical problems, so we're going to the old-fashioned method of using a projector, which is very nice. I suppose it could have been worse if we could have been going back to foils. So, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having us this evening. We'd like to present. You need. Okay, is this better if I speak more directly into the mic? That's better? Okay, great. Today we'd like to cover first a couple of previous projects, bring you up to speed on completion of the Student Center renovation and addition, which obviously this board was instrumental in providing guidance for and approval, and bring you up to date on the Rotunda recladding project, which is in process, and then bring our preliminary thoughts on the projects slated below on this slide, a new student housing project, which is primarily the replacement of Gartland Commons and development on the north side of campus, 2 parking lots associated with that project, 51 Fulton Street redevelopment, which is the old recycling building, and the completion of the Lowell Thomas building renovation, including a facade that we'd like to put on the front of that building to improve the view on Route 9 and at the center of campus there. And then finally, a sports court and garden, which would be on the back of the completed project that we're going to start with. That's the Student Center renovation. And that would be between the Student Center and the Hudson River. So starting with the Student Center renovation, this will hopefully revive some memories. This was the original mock-up that the architects, Robert A.M. Stern, had produced for the project. This is the actual. So you can see the fidelity to the design that the architects were able to provide, and the construction as a whole worked out beautifully along the lines that we had hoped. We're working on the snow removal in the front of that building, along with the rest of the region, as you well know. But we expect with the completed plantings that it will really be a terrific centerpiece to campus. We've got several key areas in that building now completed. This was the original design for the choir recital hall. And this is the picture of the completed space. I was lucky enough to attend choir practice recently at the invitation of the director. The acoustics of that room are really tremendous. And it's a beautiful facility, not only for the college, of course, but we envision that it'll be a real resource for the region, not only for musical recitals, but also for discussions, lectures of that type. This is the original sketch for the symphonic band room, which is on the second floor. This is a picture to give you some idea of the scope of that room. Which is the scale of which is really gigantic. It provides a great view of the region, looking back across Route 9 and south for all visitors to campus. And do you have another picture there? And this then is the renovated space of the Galletti Theater, where of course we hold many college and community events. This was a refacing primarily of the facility there, and the development of installation of technology and the replacement of all the chairs, much more comfortable and suitable to the needs of the theater. This is the view from the back of the Student Center. This is the curtain wall, which is completely replaced, significantly increasing the efficiency of the curtain wall, and this is the the dining facility that overlooks now the Hudson. And as you can see, we've begun to integrate into the landscape. This snow-covered patio is in fact a patio for students. And this lower level, which had been used by the music facility and for storage, now has become a very viable student space for our population. This is a picture of the courtyard prior to the project with the lonely tree in the middle of it. And this is that same space now completed. This is the Great Hall, the dining facility, and the scale of the, you get some idea of the scale and the hungry population whose needs are being addressed by the facility there as well. It's a terrific space. If you haven't been, we would love to have you come see the fruits of our mutual labor here. And I think we have another shot here. Here's another shot that I think does nice justice to the scale of the building. It's a terrific centerpiece. As you know, the mission of the institution incorporates the development of community, and this space really helps create that on campus. And I know we've had several public events. I know we're hosting a big medical technology conference through Hudson Valley Economic Development Corporation in March. We're using this facilities during spring break, and this was very attractive to that population, those professionals who wanted to come in and use the space. This is this is the sushi bar, the famed sushi bar, which is well integrated into the total dining facility. This is the private dining room, the quiet dining room rather, that overlooks the Hudson, and is a great space. It has technology built in so that conferences and the ability to the multiple use of each space was carefully put into play. The Rotunda recladding project is one that would complete the campus core. This is, of course, the reorientation of Marist that my boss Dennis Murray has put into play over the last 34 years of his tenure as president. And the architecture here that anchors the new multipurpose academic building will continue over the central icon, if you will, of Marist College, the rotunda. That rotunda is in need of repair, and we thought the opportunity was right to continue the aesthetic and complete the core to make it truly one of the great spaces on college campuses in the region and the nation. This is the current view. This section was already completed as part of this initial phase, and the rest of this will be completed starting in April, and we expect that we'll be able to complete that project in October. The new project list that I referred to at the beginning of the presentation starts with the student housing plan, which would be on the north part of campus. The parking associated with it would be just north of that lot. This is where that bank building is and the current Gartland Commons. Associated parking would be just on the other side of Route 9 at Beck Place, south of Fulton, where the ChemCards building is. This, of course, is 51 Fulton Street, the recycling facility. In addition, we've got the completion of Lowell Thomas that I referred to, and then finally, the development of a student facility, student sports courts and garden overlooking the river. So the biggest part of this presentation, of course, has to do with the replacement and additional student housing on the north campus. The proposed site, as I said before, is the old bank building. This is a site plan that includes in outline the Gartland Commons property. This is Fontaine Hall. This is the site of the current bank, and these would be the two phases of the project, which we'll go into detail. This would be a further development of, this is already sports space, intramural and general sports space. We're looking at various configurations that we could do on that space to address student needs. We are envisioning two phases for this plan. Phase 1 would be a total of 479 beds. That is this configuration of 306, followed by, at the same time, development of 173 beds. Construction would start November of this year. Occupancy would begin August of 2016, and this would allow us to replace the 306 beds that currently exist in Gartland Commons and begin to address some of our off-campus student needs, the students that have been placed off campus because of growth, some of whom are currently at the Residence Inn, for example. Phase 2 then would replace Gartland Commons itself, add an additional 317 beds for a total construction aim of 796 beds. The net of these beds, go back one, Justin. The construction would be complete the sequential year. So phase 2 would begin 5/2016 and be completed 8/2017. So the net bed number would in fact be 490 if you subtract out the current beds available on Gartland Commons. We, as you may know, also manage beds for our students at the Residence Inn. That number varies somewhere between 100 and 150. If you net those beds out as Marist overseen beds, that total net new beds drops another 100 or 150. This would bring us to our overall traditional undergraduate occupancy rate of just shy of 79%, projecting less than 1% growth over 5 years. Our strategic plan calls for no more than 1% growth in our traditional undergraduate population. We have we're in the current 5-year strategic plan. That's generally been the rule over the course of time at Marist, and our occupancy has wavered between the low 70s and the high 70s. And as we've added new beds, of course, the percentage has gone up. So this project would bring us back to stasis, if you will, for that. That's our internal benchmark is really set against many of our comparator institutions, and schools such as Providence, Bentley College, and Villanova, which has a big project underway right now, are in the high 70s, and we have many cross applications now from those schools. And so to be competitive with those comparators in that regard, that's the goal that we operate with. This is a typical suite, very familiar to those of you who've been to college, I'm sure. This was not anything like the room that I went to college in, but this is the norm now. This is the standard. This is what we call a quad single suite. So 4 individual beds, common area, and distributed facilities, bath and shower, with sinks outside, a little kitchenette. So it gives a lot of flexibility for students and gives them some common area, but the ability to have what is competitively in higher education now almost a given for that population. This is what the floor plan looks like. Each of these is simply colored to illustrate the different suites themselves. And the 2 main entrances for this quad would be on the interior. This is Route 9. So this would be the main entrance with a common area and security, which of course is paramount in these considerations. And the same over here. That would be the second floor, again, just for your information. The phase 2 floor plan would include on the first floor housing units. This would open up the view, as you'll see in a minute, to the river, which is currently blocked by the vinyl siding of Gartland Commons. And at these entrance points for the units, you would have a workout facility and a dining facility of some kind, like a Starbucks type of little cafe, Panera type of cafe. Not necessarily those brands. We'd work with our vendor Sodexo to provide that for the population of students who might want that. Second floor is primarily the residential units. This is the current view from Route 9 looking northwest. These are the campus gates. It's a little difficult to see this. This edge here is Fontaine, the height of which is somewhere near the top of this tree. This is the mock-up of the project, which again you see the campus gates here. It's from a little higher elevation, so it's a slightly different view here. But again, you see the top of Fontaine is the marker that the architects used to build the aesthetics for that corner of the tower, and this is the view through Phase 2. This continues the aesthetic of the Hudson River Gothic, if you will, that we've used throughout the other areas of campus, primarily stone with brick accents, and would help to anchor the north part of campus and bring the Gartland Commons up to the rest of the standard of the campus. This is a view from the quad, so looking toward Route 9. The river would be behind you in this view. You see it defines itself as a traditional quad that many of the great institutions provide. That's a classic, college quad. This would be the northern part of that Phase 2, if you look at that part, and then to your left here, just where the flag is, would be that other arm, if you will, of Phase 1. We're still considering the various stone and brick facade combinations between the two. The outside, that is the Route 9 view, would be primarily stone. We want to continue that aesthetic, tie into the gates, the underpass, the Hancock Center, all the developments that we've done so far. So if we do go with a brick facade on the inside, the current thinking at least is that that would mimic what a lot of institutions do. There's a warmth and familiarity that the architects talk about. It's very similar to what Yale does this a lot. A lot of the Ivies have that sort of internal warmth for the interior part of the quad. We've done a parking analysis for all these projects. The top half of this has to do with the construction. During construction, we will be removing 240 net spaces from the area the bank sits right now, which is 150 spaces. We call that Fontaine Annex. Gartland Commons then has 90 spaces. Those would be taken out during construction. We would add spaces at the Chem Card. That's the site across Route 9 there by Beck Place. New housing, as we develop it, will provide us 90 spaces. The north parking lot just north of that facility, south of St. Anne's, would give us another 168, so netting 319. The difference between those two is 79 spaces, and currently we have north of 100 spaces, about 125 vacancies for all students. Since this project is not predicated on additional students, this is about housing the traditional percentage of students that we'd like to be able to house at 78%, and the students who currently don't have on-campus housing have cars. So the parking facilities, et cetera, there's not pressure having to do with parking associated with this project. But nevertheless, we will be adding additional spaces just as part of the project itself. The specifics of those parking projects are follow now. This is the Beck Place parking lot where the current warehouse is, and that would provide us those additional spaces. As we looked at this and had discussions with various individuals, we wanted to assist in alleviating this traffic flow. This is a challenging intersection, as you know, because of the two-way ingress-egress issue on Beck Place. And we believe that this, a single point of entry and rerouting those who park here to an exit, to an egress, further east of that will alleviate that and allow much better flow for Fulton Street as a whole. So we want to try to improve the traffic flow with the project as well. The north parking lot is an expansion of parking that currently exists there and reconfiguration of that. This is 2 points to make about this. This would be hidden naturally. If we put it up there now, it would be very hard to see because you have a line of trees and the topography would be very much hidden, especially from this area of Route 9. Secondly, there's an egress here onto Route 9 that would allow us greater flexibility going forward for construction projects, and we want to be mindful of access to site, both pedestrian and vehicular, during the construction project as well. So 51 Fulton Street is the old recycling facility that we purchased last year, and we've been looking at ways to effectively develop this and use this property. Although it must be said, it'd be hard to improve on such natural beauty that presents itself there. But we've worked hard at it, and our preliminary thoughts are somewhere along this line. We will certainly reconfigure that building. This is the first sketch out of the gate, so it's a little bit, it feels kind of Palm Springs to me. But the importance here, I think, is going to be the reconfiguration of that facade. We're going to go through several iterations, but we will make it much more attractive as part of the project. Our proposed uses for the building are really in three areas. We currently are using it for storage and some warehouse space. It has been very effective during the completion of the Student Center. It's allowed Justin to stockpile materials and not be beholden to traffic deliveries in a just-in-time approach, and that's been very effective. It's allowed us to keep the project moving. But we also are looking at information technology. As you know, we have a very solid technology platform, long-term partnership with IBM. We're named the New York State Cloud Computing and Analytics Center from the governor's office, and we think that facility has a future as a kind of a technology incubation center. We currently are working with many companies who want to use our cloud expertise that we developed with IBM. We want to draw them to the region, and we want to begin to develop a real incubation model that a lot of the great institutions have done. Stanford, of course, is the biggest example. But that facility we plan on using to help develop startup companies and bring that kind of technology expertise to the region. I think it's a great footprint for it, and we're primed to make it happen. The Lowell Thomas renovation completes really what we began last year. This is the footprint of the building. We want to put a new front on the building and provide a better entry lounge, flow through the front of the building. And we're completing the second floor renovation, and as we do that, we'd like to put a front on the building that does a couple of things. First of all, it brings it up to closer par with many of the other buildings that we've put into play, like the Hancock Center, for example, and it updates it, gives it a contemporary feel. Also allows a better flow through the building. It'll be a more efficient space. But this is also the most visible facility as you drive north on Route 9 in the region. And I think this is a straight-on shot, but as you drive north and look past the gates, that building is really the most visible front of the college. As you probably know, the School of Communication and the Arts is it's a vigorous part of our portfolio. A lot of innovation going on in that building, and the kind of apple glass front, which is what we're proposing here, will help accentuate what we're doing, and I think it'd be a nice visual for the campus as well. This is a view from inside the lower floor, and this is a shot from the stairwell. And finally, the sports court garden is in response to our students. We survey our students and communicate with them regularly, and one of the biggest requests from them has been to provide additional sporting facilities for intramurals primarily. So this is the current site plan. Of course, that's the Great Hall now, so that there should be a roof on that. But this is the back of the building. And what we would like to do is, in some fashion, put a multi-use sports court right here. Go back one slide for a second, Justin. This is on the southern part of the back side. This is Champagne. This is Champagne Breezeway, and there's a natural sort of tree line. We'd like to tuck in there a sports court facility, being very conscious about the facility, the materials that we'll be using, and manage the light carefully. In addition to that, we'd like to do a garden in the back of the facility, and a little amphitheater as well. The garden would be used for production of some of our herbs and things like that for the dining facility. One of the things that we've done with Sodexo as our vendor is we've committed a significant portion to locally grown foods, Hudson Valley Foods, and as you know, that's a very big movement, especially among the 18 to 21-year-old population, and we want to take the next step and begin to cultivate some of the land there in an aesthetically pleasing way. It's a very 18th century garden, so a very defined space. These are just images of the kinds of multi-sports courts that are out there and available that would give us a high capability of serving student needs. And that concludes our presentation. Happy to take any questions and clarify anything and take your feedback. Thank you. Yeah, keep it up so if you have any.
First, I'd like to thank you all for coming in and sharing that with us. It was very enlightening, and it's always nice to know what's going on and what you guys see going on down the road. So appreciate you coming out on such a cold night to do that. Any comments from the board or any questions? Or
I had a couple of questions. One was, all the new dorms being put in place, that'll be part of the main campus versus over on the east dorms. Like, what student population do you envision being in those dorms? Is that more juniors, sophomores, or freshmen, or?
Excellent question. I'm sorry I wasn't clear on that. It will be primarily sophomore and junior housing, and our biggest challenge right now is with that population, sophomore housing. They don't have a lot of variety of housing units. If I could show you the data. We cut our data 900 different ways, as you know, but freshman students have more flexibility in the types of rooms that are available to them, from singles to quads, than the sophomores do. They almost have no flexibility. So it will give us that flexibility to provide that for them. But in the aggregate, we're having trouble managing those rooms. We're pushing off juniors and seniors because of the sophomore population right now. So, and the other big piece of the puzzle, of course, is Gartland Commons, which is really at the end of its design life. It's not, it's functional, but we want to make sure we have a safe environment for all of our students. And, you know, projecting several years out, it would be difficult to, we'd have to put significant resources into an infrastructure that wouldn't really bear it very well.
Makes me want to go back to school.
Yeah, that's
dorm
two
room
of us.
My dorm room was more like two cots on a desk.
Right.
Another, I would just want to mention, the herb garden, I think is a good idea. My daughter's going to UMass, and that has a little herb and vegetable garden near each dining hall, and they try to use those.
It's very
And the
important.
students seem to like that
Right.
incorporation.
It's very important, and there's a lot, as you know, probably know, the lot of economic development in that in the region. I mean, the Hudson Valley is a leader in that farm to table kind of movement, and we don't just feed New York City. We feed them well and feed ourselves well too. So.
And the last comment I had is not directly related to the new dorms and everything, but the from a master plan point of view, there's an old rail trail spur that goes up to the psych center that kind of runs right by the dorms on your east side. And was there ever any consideration to try to get that tied into down to the rail trail and the walkway for?
Yeah, on the east side of campus,
Yes,
there,
on the
the
east side.
CSX.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that we certainly would love to look at the rail trail accessibility. It's not our property, but it's something
Yes, I know it isn't.
Yeah, I think that the Greenway and the rail trail are things that we contemplate as part of our master planning process. We want that natural flow to be occurring across the campus, but also integrate it with the community in meaningful ways. So.
Now, the dorms appear to be, what, 4 stories?
Yes, primarily 4, and then
Yeah, there's two wings on the first building you see on Route 9 that are 5-story.
Right.
The rest of it is 4-story.
Okay, I mean, that's obviously going to be one of the concerns that we're going to hear about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think
Right.
they're very attractive,
Right.
and, you know, and they're very typical of what you see at universities and
Right.
colleges. So.
Right. Even internally, you know, this is an item that we're looking at, you know, aesthetically as well. And the architects really were looking at the relationship to Fontaine in particular. And the overall height of the structure would not exceed that. Right? It would be measured to that from that corner piece. But a lot of that still has to be worked out.
I know they take a lot more, we used to pack a lot more students in the smaller space when I went to school, but I mean, like I said, there were 2 and that would fit into the living area space of that suite. There were 2 of us, you know, and that was it. There was a big bathroom down the hall for about 20 people or 30 people.
Well, you know, in a project like this, of course, you have to, you're building for the future, literally, and
Sure.
the trends
And
and the needs and the requirements
Well, and you've got to be
requirements
competitive
of
with
those
what's
kids
being
coming
built
in.
today, and
That's right. That's exactly right.
What is the number of students today, and what do you contemplate by 2017?
By 2017, we are, traditional undergraduate population is in that 40, where are we, 40?
I have it.
You got it.
Hold on a second.
You got it in there, right?
It was on one of the slides.
I'll just give you the exact number on the slide.
4378.
I was going to say
So those things are
44,
on
roughly 44.
And we're assuming less than 1% growth per year.
Okay. Staying with Dennis's promise.
Excuse me?
I think
Yes.
Dennis made that promise back some time ago. So you're looking at 1% increase per year.
Less than 1%.
Okay.
That puts around.
And of that, you hope to have 80% on campus by 2017?
Just
Roughly.
slightly, yeah, 79%.
Good.
Right.
And it is, today, I know, a competitive process to be able to live on campus your, junior, senior year, I believe? Or is it?
We guarantee housing only through sophomore year
Right.
right, and then the.
Junior and senior year, though, it's competitive based.
It's
right?
competitive, that's exactly right, through priority points.
Right, okay.
So,
You're certainly opening up things that are more interesting to the public, and I'm going to pick on you on the parking situation from the standpoint that if you're going to have more and more things that are going to attract the general area, from an economic standpoint,
Sure.
state standpoint, athletic, it certainly is growing like gangbusters.
Right.
And, now with theater and other productions, I can imagine seeing that growing. I don't know how you're going to handle the parking situation, because
Yeah.
I personally, as I've spoken to you already about,
Sure.
it's not a good situation in terms of how it's handled right now, and that there is not enough. And I'm going to speak for the handicapped as well here.
Yeah.
There's just not enough handicap parking there. And it's got to be somehow handled differently in terms of events and so forth, especially in the winter.
Right, and that's a discussion we've been having with
Yeah.
Vassar every time something
Sure.
happens too.
Well,
Sporting parking and.
I think I've already
Sure.
spoken about the
Sure.
specific couple of nights, girls' basketball things, but there's got to be some better ways. to handle it.
Well, I can, operationally, I can promise you that there will be a better system in place for those. And I was at that same event, it was atypical, and I
Yeah.
spoke to security on site at that time. But there are other factors here. Of course, this winter, the piling up of the snow has diminished parking capability in many cases, but that's not an excuse, it's just a comment. And the longer term, you're exactly right, and it's one of the master planning issues that we look at, how to manage the space that we have more effectively, and how to manage the flow associated with the given events. It may be in many cases, we've got the physical space around campus to manage large events, but they're not conveniently connected to the parking capability. The parking lot may be further away for folks, and part of that is management. If you have a higher degree of accessibility needs, then you have to move those without further away.
Well, certainly the other aspect is that you're trying to entice people through the Red Foxes to come and
Sure.
purchase a season ticket and then have parking at the McCann Center.
Right.
I think you've got a situation there where probably 80% of the people that are already parked there are students.
Right. Right.
So the limited amount of parking that's available disappears within an hour and a half before the game starts.
Right.
And you got to figure out something there.
And we have various procedures in place for, parking announcements and the accessibility. We have to improve on those, I think, in general. But I think strategically, we have to analyze the parking for the future needs of the college.
Right.
You're exactly right.
Well, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
Is it's not going to get smaller. I think
Right,
it's going to get
right.
bigger.
Have you considered in your master plan or some of your brainstorming sessions perhaps, maybe a parking garage or two, maybe not big ones, but strategically placed 1 or 2 story, even 3 story facilities that would kind of be hidden but provide you with that kind of parking?
We've had the architects look at various things, and we've in terms of the overall master plan, they have come up and we're considering them. The other piece of this, of course, the largest number of cars, as you note, Ed, have to do with students, and there are many ways that institutions address the parking. Sometimes there's a fee associated with parking that drives down the number of cars on campus. You can policy change for who can and cannot have cars on campus can be changed, and some institutions restrict that more than we do. And that's a possibility where you could make that change appropriate for the population that you're working to deal with, of course. The other macro trend that we're seeing, in some cases, pretty significantly, are students who are using zip cars. We have 2 zip cars on campus, which are these rentals, automatic rental kind of cars, and there's more and more interest from a sustainability perspective for students, but also for parents who don't have to carry the cost of the insurance and operation of a car, and if a kid can avail himself or herself of those zip cars, that's a possibility. So we're looking at all the strategy associated with parking from a policy perspective, from a space perspective, a single level, multi-level perspective, and also in terms of macro trends like zip cars.
I think at one point Vassar provided off-campus parking for students that didn't use their cars frequently.
Yep. So that's remote lot model is a good one, I think. So.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
It's certainly a lot different than where it was in 1963.
It's a lot different than where it was in 1990.
Yeah.
Or 2000 even.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much for
Forward to
your
you
feedback.
coming back in and bringing,
Details to follow.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Not running out of work, eh, Justin?
Okay, McDonald's on Main Street, presentation in response to City of Poughkeepsie secret lead agency notice and request for comment regarding proposed site redevelopment of an existing McDonald's restaurant on property located in the town and City of Poughkeepsie, 729, 733 Main Street, zoned ATC, the Arlington Town Center in the town, and C-2A Main Street Commercial in the city. I think the whole thing comprises of about 0.826 acres. I did the math right anyway. So it's McDonald's Real Estate Corp. owner. Is the applicant present? There, I guess they are.
We'll put your phone. Thanks, John.
Otherwise, I'd like to know if he's sick. Or they should consider green. That's actually probably the answer. They should consider green. It's not work, but it's worth a shot.
Oh, I have a copy, that's right, thank you. Oh, good, okay. Thank you. Hello,
Good evening.
my name is Brad Bowler from Bowler Engineering. I actually was in front of this board about 6 months ago or so for the McDonald's on Route 9. The new McDonald's, so I'm a little familiar with your board. Thank you for having me back. This is a rebuild of an existing McDonald's. It's on a property that's split both by the city and by the town. The current McDonald's sits 99% within the city boundary, and that's shown the boundary right here. So this is the town side. This is the city side. The proposal is basically to rebuild the restaurant as it in the same general location. Add a side-by-side drive-through, that was on the previous application, and improve the efficiency of the drive-through. Really focus on that. That's the new trend now in the fast food restaurants, and redevelop the site and make it a kind of a brand new site.
Side-by-side drive-through mostly on the right side there?
Yeah, it's these two.
So it's 2 lanes, they merge into one and go around,
Yeah.
all right. There's enough room there? Okay. They're gonna close down the facility while they do this, I assume?
Yeah, they'll shut down. It takes about 120 days to shut down, knock the building down, rebuild everything, and open back up.
What will they do?
I was gonna say that end of town will start.
Yeah. Well, there's not.
Well, here's the question, a question. As you exit McDonald's, there's a sign that says, no left turn. As you come through the drive-through, get your food, and you go straight down, there's a sign that says no left turn on the main street.
Okay.
Is that going to continue? Because it doesn't work. People always make left turns there.
Yeah, the intent was to open it up for left turns because we see the same thing. There's no way to really restrict that other than putting another sign up there, and it doesn't really get followed, to tell you the truth. So I don't really see a problem with the left turns necessarily, and the city hasn't really mentioned much on that end of
Someone
things.
made you put that sign up. I don't know. It must have been the city. It's in the city.
Yeah, it's not the county because that's not, that part of the road's not county road right there.
I know. So it can just disappear and nobody's going to care?
Was that restriction, have you reviewed the original site plan for that site, and was it a restriction of that site?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Well, I'll tell you, making a left-hand turn there is not very easy.
Right.
No.
That's
I mean,
correct.
with the traffic on Main Street, if you want to make a left turn there, a lot of times you'll
Goes
sit there
past
for,
the auto zone, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you'll sit there forever.
And it's so close to that light. I mean, typically, the best way is go around, as you said, through the AutoZone parking lot.
And if you back it up and then people can't.
Not that I've ever been there.
You know. Is that, I mean, can two cars get out that entrance? I mean, does somebody?
Yes,
right
that's-
around?
That is one of the reasons why we have it as wide as it is. I know one of the comments was to try to channelize that, but one of the reasons that we left it that wide was to allow for two cars to sit next to each other so that the drive-through and the bypass lane can function with right turns while someone may be waiting to take a left turn in that location.
But the problem there is if somebody's coming out of the drive-through and they're not paying attention and they want to make a right turn, they're going to pull right in front of somebody else that's making a right turn that just, you know, that was
Is
sitting.
it the right thing to leave the sign and people ignore it? I mean, is it the best thing for the safety of people going out onto Main Street?
Now, if you could,
I mean, you can come down to Olive Garden and watch it all the time when the sign gets run over down there, and then you can go into Oakwood Commons and watch the sign get knocked over down there, and where else you want to go? Pick the plaza.
Yeah.
Pick the whatever. I mean, people just don't obey signs.
We move the building further to the west and give a little more space, since you're taking the whole thing down anyway.
I don't think that moving it over 20 feet is going to make any difference, to tell you the truth. And you really don't gain any parking. You're actually going to lose those 8 spaces there.
too.
Well, you would gain some on the right side, but I'm just,
Not as many as
Really,
you'd think.
unless you're backing.
Maybe you gain 1 or 2 spaces back. You don't gain as many. You wouldn't gain the 8 back, so you're losing a lot more parking than you.
I agree with that. I mean, at least leave the, I think the sign should say, so at least some people would think twice about before doing that. Should stay, I mean.
I don't know.
I don't know either. It's a tight spot. I mean, it's really, really a tight spot. I guess if I had one objection, I'd say it's so tight that I can't see adding the dual drive-up lanes. I know that's the thing to do.
I don't know, is there a problem today with stacking?
So, yeah, so under existing conditions, it's, one menu board and the stacking doesn't operate, and the drive-through doesn't operate very efficiently at all. So under the dual drive-through, what that allows you to do is it allows you to have a bigger order and then smaller orders bypass it, so the efficiency gets significantly better. So much so that these drive-throughs with it side-by-side, they typically only see stacking to the edge of the concrete in the back of the lane at their highest peaks in one of their biggest volume stores. So this isn't one of their, I would say one of their biggest volume stores. It's a higher volume store, but not one of the biggest volume stores where you'd see on like a major highway or a US route like Route 9. Those would see the stacking to the edge of the concrete, which would be right here in that area. This store, we'd probably see, you might see 1 or 2 cars behind each of the menu order points, which are these tan boxes right here. So we don't anticipate any problems with stacking under the new scenario. Under the old scenario, where it's currently there, it's kind of anyone's guess. If you get a large order in that one single order point, you're holding up 5, 6 people and you're backing out onto a street. This situation, you wouldn't have that.
So you actually guide the people with the small orders that go first, or?
It happens naturally as someone if someone's ordering a big order, say in the inside lane, there'll be one person sitting behind it who can't get out because it's stuck in the concrete islands. But everyone else will see that there's an opening to the right
Okay.
side, and there's signage there that would say any lane, any time. And people would know that they could move around that car to get around, and then they go through, and this happens naturally.
I hadn't thought of that. Sometimes a large order could be given and two cars could go through on the other lane.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how they reduce that inherent stack that happens with a single order point.
Yeah.
This alleviates that need, and then it gets people through the drive-through, because what really takes the longest time in any situation for a drive-through is actually the ordering. Everything else inside, the McDonald's has it down to a science, so it's like real quick. But the person ordering 15 hamburgers for the soccer team is, taking their time. Well, the person just wants a cup of coffee, he or she's flying through. This helps that process out.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to go around the board. Let me start with Ed.
I got nothing.
Nothing. Don? No? Rich?
I mean, I already said what I,
Yeah. Well, now that I heard the description of the dual drive-throughs, and I hadn't thought about it, it kind of makes sense. Okay, I'm good. Carl?
I have a few issues. I think Eric has, or whoever wrote up the summary here has mentioned a few of them anyway, but I guess talking about the sidewalk in front, to the east of there, it's been redone as a new streetscape with some decorative lighting and benches in a couple of spots. I think a bench could be useful here if somebody just wanted to grab a burger and sit outside on a nice day. Just to carry that street theme across, and I think that's a comment in here as well. I don't know if there's an issue with parking, if you consider a shared parking easement, since there was a kind of connection to the auto zone.
So now we are reducing the number of parking spaces. We don't think it's going to be a concern. What happens a lot of times when you see a backup of a drive-through, which would you seek under current conditions, you'll have a tendency to bypass that and sit down and park in the parking space as opposed to waiting in that line. Under this situation, I wouldn't see that. But McDonald's in general has been going towards like a more drive-through oriented business. Even in a situation like this where it's a walkable area and you'd see a lot of people that would be walking up, people aren't necessarily sitting inside anymore. They're driving by, they're going to go through the drive-through, and they're going to get on their way and go back to where they're going.
Did you do any parking analysis for existing conditions? What's the usage at the?
Not on this specific site, but the owner-operator hasn't acknowledged any issues with parking on site currently.
I think the county had some questions about the lighting, to make sure that was human scale.
Yeah, and I know that you had mentioned some comments about asking for lighting along the property boundary to be lowered down to the 0.2-foot candles. We're going to work on doing that to meet that. The only thing I would just note is that there's an interior lot line just for the fact that the city and the town split the property.
Right.
We wouldn't be able to meet it there, but along the boundaries of the rest of the property, we would be able to do that. But we'd have the right-of-way illuminated for safety purposes.
The
and that
concern of glare, I mean, there's a residence
Yeah.
to the northeast
Right,
there.
and those lights are shielded from that area, so we'll work on modifying that to get those to be lower.
And the last thing, I guess, I see a lot of bikes in that area. We're adding bike racks in places where we can.
Yeah, adding a bike rack wouldn't be a problem.
So that's
Okay.
it, thanks.
Peter?
I think the planning department covered pretty much all the bases in their comments and recommendations, including that left-hand turn, which we had discussed earlier, the queuing at peak drive-through time, parking, according to the document we got from the planning department, is cut in half. It's been reduced to 27 spaces, while the city requires 56, according to this document. The lighting, I think, will be a concern, and there are some questions about handicap parking and volume controls on the menu board.
So I'll touch on the ADA parking and the volume controls, but I didn't talk about those already. So the volume controls, there are volume controls on the speaker board, speakers. So if they are too loud and there's complaints, they can be turned down fairly easily. The manager has a key to a box that they can adjust downward to make sure that we can lower those levels. We typically, don't have any problems with that stuff, but we can certainly monitor as we go.
Does the city have a standard for the
No.
decibel level?
They don't.
There's no standard?
No.
We do have a standard, I think, in the town of Poughkeepsie. And the parking?
The spaces for ADA are just the closest to the door we could get them. We can make some adjustments, but they're typically low turnover spaces, so we don't see a lot of people, backing out. It's not like they're used like a normal parking space, but we can certainly shift those inward and upward to give at least 20 feet behind them to back up.
And how comfortable do you feel? According to this document, the existing parking is being reduced from 33 spaces to 27.
Typically, McDonald's shoots for between 20 and 30 parking spaces on their new sites with this new side-by-side drive-through, so the 27's adequate. If we can get a couple more, we would try to, but in this layout, I wouldn't see it being a problem.
Are those parking spaces, is the formula for the number of parking spaces based on the size of the building, the amount of seating?
It's based on the size of the building. If you go by amount of seating on this, typical rule of thumb that we would use for normal restaurants is 1 space per 3 seats. So that would give you about 23 parking spaces. We have 27, so that's why I feel comfortable with the 27 parking spaces.
Thank you.
Just reduce it to 27, I think it was.
Just out of curiosity,
Says here,
double queuing configuration is kind of odd on the site because it's at this kind of a 45-degree angle. Did you look at all other ways of configuring the double queuing? Because I noticed that normally places like this want to have parking right up against the building. And in this case, parking east of the building is all on the perimeter, necessitating any access from that parking to cross both the queuing line, as opposed to having parking up alongside the building and the queuing line on the far side of the parking. Can you shed any light on how it got to this point, or whether you considered an alternative with parking up against the building and queuing on the outside?
Sure. So this is, you're right, it's a little bit of a modification from the current typical proposals. The city asked us to face the building in this configuration, and because of the depth of the lot that we had there, we had to actually move the drive-through closer to the building. Normally, we'd have the drive-through about 20 feet back further, but it really wouldn't add much more parking to this area. We'd maybe add 2 more spaces to it. That's the standard that McDonald's has been going with. Realistically, under the older scenarios, a lot of times the drive-throughs would actually hug the building on both sides, and you'd have to cross it anyway. This does give a couple spaces up there, and we do add some sidewalks. But it's a typical, fast food circulation perspective where you have to cross over those things, and to get into the building. It's kind of inevitable when you have a counterclockwise motion, whether it's a bank or a fast food restaurant, for that matter. We do try to put as many parking spaces as we can next to the building, though, inside of that, so you can eliminate that as much as possible.
Well, I will say it'll be a nice improvement for that part of Main Street. It's, that building's been there a long time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that'd be good.
Be nice to be
Some comments?
Have you had any complaints about the volume level from the menu board?
Not to my knowledge, no. And they're in about the same location that we currently that we were proposing, maybe a little bit back further, closer to the residents. So
The reason I ask is I recall those menu boards were on the town side of the property.
yeah, currently now under the proposed conditions, 1 will be in the city
bike rack.
fully, and 1 will be about 3 feet into the city. So.
He said he did. Great, thank you.
Just for the board's edification, you did get a revised staff recommendation. Basically, the change from the one that you received earlier for review is in the recommendations is with number 1. We added a comment to coordinate the site plan review with the site plan approved in the city with the town, and to indicate that the expectation is that the city will go first on its approval, and that the town would then
Review the,
would use a consistent plan in the city as a basis for its review and approval.
Yeah, so just for matter of procedural, we intend to revise and resubmit plans back to the city for Monday delivery, so they have it for their planning board hearing on the 18th. And we'd certainly provide the town with as many copies as we need to provide them as part of that resubmission, because they had asked for a couple revisions on their end of things in their last meeting as well, one of which is going to a monument sign from a pylon sign, et cetera.
But we need to see their, whatever they approve and review what they approve before we approve it.
Right.
So whatever the city approves for this project, we would then review that approval to see if we concur.
Okay.
And also the right now, the plans that were submitted with the town application are out for review by departments. But the first couple ones that came back, such as from the town engineer, it seemed like some of the comments in it would be relevant to the city review, so I added recommendation number 14 to basically pass those comments along to the city.
Yeah.
Since they're relevant to town review, but some of the comments may also be relevant to the city's review.
Okay, that's fair. We're gonna add number 15 for the bike rack.
Okay. I move that the planning board consent to the lead agency designation of the City of Poughkeepsie Planning Board.
Second.
We moved and seconded that the planning board consent to the lead agency designation of the City of Poughkeepsie Planning Board. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the planning board direct staff to forward comments to the City of Poughkeepsie Planning Board and to the City of Poughkeepsie Zoning Board of Appeals, carbon copying the Dutchess County Department of Planning as follows, and that's 1 through 14 and 15, and is there, from the discussion, is there anything else I need to add?
This is DPW. Is it planning or Department of Public Works?
Public Works.
Public Works.
Dutchess County DPW.
Yeah, because they.
Public Works.
Public Works, okay.
Yeah.
Dutchess County right here. It wouldn't be Dutchess County Planning. Okay, got it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, the planning board directs staff to forward comments to the City of Poughkeepsie Planning Board and to the City of Poughkeepsie Zoning Board of Appeals and carbon copy the Dutchess County Department of Public Works as follows, 1 through 14 and adding 15 and any other comments that the board had to make this evening that Eric has written down. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good luck. Nice to see that get done. Okay, application number 3. Vassar College Science Building amended site plan, authorized notice by the planning board to continue as lead agency and to reopen secret review of an amended site plan and aquatic resource permit application for a project portion behind Sanders Classroom and Sanders Physics Building to modify truck turnaround area and add outdoor amenities and stormwater treatment to an expanded project area. 124 Raymond Avenue, 255.89 acres. Secret negative declaration, type 1 action, on file, Vassar College owner. Is Vassar College here?
No, we consider this a procedural item to basically authorize the lead agency circulation that staff performed.
Yeah, circulation was already.
We advised the applicant that their presence wasn't necessary.
Okay.
Okay. I move that we circulate. I'm gonna circulate.
There is, let's see.
Second that.
I move the planning board reaffirm is continuing.
Oh,
You want this? Here.
Hearty ho.
Oh, okay.
You need a McDonald's hamburger.
What about
I'll say you never made a left turn there.
I move that the planning board reaffirm its continuing status as seeker lead agency for environmental review of the proposed amended project as a type 1 action and authorize the planning department circulation to identify involved agencies of a February 14, 2014 seeker notice of amended application by the planning board as lead agency of its intent to reopen and continue seeker review of the amended application together with a copy of the amended application and a copy of the EAF.
Is that a second?
Yeah, you gotta.
All right, so we moved and seconded that we, planning board reaffirm its continuing status as secret lead agency, et cetera, as written here and read so nicely by Mr. Davidson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the planning board defer action on the amended application pending responses to the February 14, 2014 seeker notice of amended application.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the planning board defer action on the amended application pending responses to the February 14th secret notice of amended application. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Has
sir.
Vassar worked it out with the fire department?
That was it.
Has Vassar worked it out with the fire department yet?
I'm sorry?
Yes, yeah.
They did?
Yes, we're supposed to see that in the next plan submittal.
The answer is yes.
Another battle, that's good.
See the next plan submittal, but you're going to
See
be.
in April.
Ed will not be here at the next meeting. He'll be sunning himself. Okay, other business. South Hills Land LLC subdivision time extension. A preliminary approval for a 20-lot cluster subdivision at 237 New York State Route 9D, zoned R20 residence, single family, 20,000 square feet, and SHC South Hills Center, 23.26 acres. Negative declaration adopted on February 21st, 2013. South Hills Land LLC owner. Hello.
Excuse me, my name is David Lavapore. I'm a member of the LLC that owns the 23 acres.
Could you pull the microphone close? Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have a little cold. I'm a member of the LLC that owns the 23 acres. I'm requesting an extension for one primary reason, is that once we had the preliminary approval from the board, for the first time, I've been told that this is a really feasible project from an economic point of view. So I went and got some contractors to give me some prices, and it turns out to be that the project, from an infrastructure point of view, was very expensive. So rather than spend a lot more money and finish the conditional approvals that you'd given me, I put it on the market to see if somebody with a great deal more skill than I would be able to purchase this from me and build it. Right now, I have an offer for this site from a local builder, and that's the reason I'm here, to ask for a little bit of an extension to allow that transaction to consummate itself. As simple as that, really.
Okay, that's fair. So rather than dispensing with this application, the applicant is trying to sell it and has someone who's potentially interested. So I would propose we give him the time extension, see if he can make that come to fruition.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much.
That's what, 180 days?
It
Yep,
is?
you've got a date here.
I gotta find it.
Okay, I move that the board grant a 180-day time extension for the conditional preliminary subdivision approval from February 24th, 2014 through August 25th, 2014.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we grant planning board grant a 180-day time extension for the conditional preliminary subdivision approval from February 24th, 2014 forward to August 25th, 2014. Call the question.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very
You're
much.
good luck. I hope we can make that happen.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate
And
it.
I'm hoping that someone in fact can build this project. Okay. What else we got?
Let's see, did you terminate the meeting?
Yes.
I move we terminate the meeting.
We move the second of the meeting be terminated. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.